I am here today with Chandler Gull, a former soccer player and CEO of MindPower. Cannot wait to get Chandler's perspective on some amazing things that's going on there. We're going to talk about retirement and resources, strategies, lessons learned, among other stuff. Chandler, thank you very much. Grateful that you're here with me and real good to see you. How are you today?
I'm good, Brian.
Good.
Excited to talk a little bit about our journeys here. And I just want to thank you for thinking of me and inviting me onto this episode.
Absolutely. So we're going to dive in, but before we get into some of the questions, I really would love, Chandler, if you're able to just tell our audience a little bit about you and give us kind of an overview of your sporting journey. That'd be awesome to warm things up.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name's Chandler Gull. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm 25. I was a competitive soccer player for the majority of my life, which led me into my first love and career, which was coaching, personal training. Once I graduated and stopped playing soccer, and that was my first experience as an entrepreneur is coaching and training, and that led to the businesses that I had today. But I'm super passionate about helping others, so I'm very involved in community and volunteer activities. I have my own nonprofit foundation, as you know, and my goal in my life is just to make the biggest impact that I can, whether it be through my businesses, through community, through sport, anything. I want to be able to leave an impact for something once I'm gone. You know, I'm young, but I understand I won't be here forever. So I want to be able to leave a legacy for others to be able to live a better life.
That is some really nice work. You got to that place in your life a lot faster than I did because you're speaking my language. It just took me longer to get to that place. Because I'm 27 years old. No, a little older than that. But no, I think that's amazing. So we've got lots to talk about. And I seem to remember, this is just a random question that came to mind based on all the things that you do. And as an entrepreneur, I seem to remember that you are a fan, like me, of Shark Tank. Can you confirm or deny that to be the case?
Yes.
Okay.
I absolutely watched nearly every season or every episode of the show. Yeah.
I'm telling you, we've got tons to talk about. So I'm just curious, your favorite shark is who?
It's got to be Mr. Wonderful, of course. Kevin O'Leary.
I feel like we were separated at birth. That's my guy. That's my guy as well. But anyway, I was just curious about that. Completely random, but we can talk more about that off the air. So the next question I have is when you look back on your sports career, when did you retire from sports, and how was the end of your career? Was it your choice? What were kind of the circumstances behind that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I played 1 year of collegiate soccer at the Division II level at a small school in Indiana. And that was it. The transition out of playing was actually it was a weird one. My coach ended up leaving after my first season, so a lot of our team at that point in time decided that we were going to transfer, go to different schools. I found and looked at different schools in warmer climates, which is where I always wanted to go, someplace like California, Florida. And I found a school in Florida that I liked and decided to commit to going to. And I went there without a direct plan of playing soccer again. I got there and started talking to coaches once I was there to work my way. I figured I was just going to, wing it. But, it didn't really pan out. For one reason or another. So my retirement was kind of unplanned, I guess you could say.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's interesting at each level. I mean, you're still in rare air of playing at the collegiate level competitive. That's a thing. And there's often emotions going through that retirement, whether it was 4 years or a semester. Like there's usually some challenges surrounding that. And so what was the biggest challenge, or what were the biggest challenges right after that period in your life, Chandler?
Yeah, well, I think to explain that better, I need to give a little bit more context around my last years. I spent my first year in Florida at the school I transferred to, training and preparing to actually continue playing. I developed a good relationship with the assistant coach, and I started to train in the mornings, and I played intramurals. The assistant coach at the school that I went to, he was coaching a local club, so I trained with them. And the objective was for me to actually continue playing come the fall. So it was more like it was supposed to be like an unplanned year off, I guess. And it got to the point I was in Miami, Florida, where I needed to stay and train with them, train with the coach, train with the club during the summer to be ready for fall. And I couldn't afford housing in Miami. I was looking for places, and I didn't have a lot of money, and I just couldn't afford a place to stay. So I ended up going back home for the summer, working, and I think that was the point where I decided that, this it's not gonna work out for me, and I need to start preparing and planning for the future, because I was never going to play beyond college. It was never my plan. Initially, I knew that if I did end up playing 2 more years, that after that I would have to figure out something else. So I turned my focus towards my career and figuring out what I actually wanted to do more than ever. Because when soccer was such a big part of my life, it was like, okay, yeah, school was a priority, obviously.
Yeah.
But I didn't take that time and live in the reality that I have to figure this out. That, game is not forever. What else do I want to do with my life? So, it was actually, I was 20 years old and starting to, for the first time, realize that I need to begin planning and changing my direction.
Yeah, that's helpful. Thank you for that. I'm always fascinated, Chandler, by the feelings we have when we go through stuff, including transition. And I'll connect it to athletics. When you've got those butterflies in your stomach, I'm sure you have them like every other athlete. It seems like the best athletes will take those butterflies and they'll use them as excitement. It's more along the lines of, oh, this is great. My body is getting ready to perform at a high level. But the people that are overcome and overwhelmed by those butterflies, then they struggle to a greater level with transition. So my question in a roundabout way is, so how did you feel during the transition, butterflies or otherwise? What kind of showed up for you?
Well, because of the lack of like planning and expectation, it was really hard. So like basically my first fall semester ever, or first fall season ever, where I wasn't playing soccer was when I moved down to Miami, Florida. And that was really hard. It hit me pretty hard. And I didn't realize it until I was going through it, how I just like typically would be in season, be in a rhythm. And when I say it's hard, to be honest, I was depressed. To be completely transparent, it was hard, not just because I wasn't playing the game that I enjoyed, but it was hard because my training schedule was different. My eating routines, my patterns, all those things were changed. The purpose that I had while playing, I had to now find some way to fill that. And that was the first time in my life where I realized that, okay, this is depression's no joke. It was a really, really challenging period of my life. And it made me really aware that I needed to find something that I loved as much as soccer. That I was as passionate about as soccer to be able to do, for the rest of my life. And that's where I started training. That's where I started coaching, so I could get that fulfillment back.
Right. So that was, and as I understand that's what got you out of that space, almost. What you started with, serving others and creating an impact. So is that what helped you overcome some of the the mental hurdles during that time in your life, Chandler?
Yeah, I would say absolutely. Being able, or just having a need, like humans fundamentally, we have a need to leave an impact, to have a purpose, right? We need to have a purpose. We need to be involved in a community. And when you're playing, in a sport on a team, you've got the community, you've got your friends, you've got a purpose. You're focused on winning games. It's a common goal. All those things are there naturally. But when that's stripped away, now it's like, okay, I still need those things, but where am I going to get them from? So that's when I turned my focus towards giving back, and it was initially trying to just stay close to the game, doing what I enjoyed. It's an easy transition for athletes to become coaches. It's very, very normal. So I started coaching. I was working on the weekends, coaching youth, doing skills training with U10. And I worked the following fall after I stopped playing, did that for a while. And then I started becoming a personal trainer not too long after that. So I just continually was working with athletes. So I'd always be around sport, and I would always be just, active.
It's so interesting how, like you said, it's so easy for athletes to segue into coaching, because that's, I guess, what I'm supposed to do. And a lot of people want impact. And in some ways, instead of exploring all the possibilities, because the possibilities are endless. And so you remind me of a quote from a very wise man. Can I read you a quote? Would you mind?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, so, accept yourself for who you are, not what everyone wants you to be. And this is actually from Chandler Gull on the website, which we'll get to in a minute. I love quotes, and that one was so powerful to me. And I think that sometimes when we're in the middle of things, we forget that we're showing up as someone else's version instead of how we show up. Can you tell me a little bit about where that quote came from and what it means to you, Chandler?
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks for that, Brian. That's a good breath of fresh air. That quote. I think in reality, that was me trying to gain my happiness back after sport, is learning that the only real way for someone to truly be happy is to fully accept themselves for who they are and who they want to be. And I was on a call before this one, and someone said that your vision for your life is yours. Your dreams is that's yours.
Yeah.
Nobody else can truly understands what it's like to be you. And so you have to accept and not worry about the outside world and what other people want for you. That was a big thing too. People knew me as a soccer player. What was I going to be known for besides being an athlete?
Yeah.
And that's kind of where that comes from.
Yeah. Love that. And you're at such an advantage, Chandler, at this stage of your life, because it took me so much longer to get to that point. I was chasing things in the corporate world for a long, long time, just as you described, going after a version that someone else says that's success instead of going after what you're truly passionate about. We'll get back to more of your after sports world, but thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that. How about the changes you had mentioned? I think you mentioned about how things changed a little bit about after soccer. Did you experience, Chandler, any unexpected changes in your body, or did you struggle physically, anything like that?
That was the first time where I had taken a step away from being so active and being in season playing sports. I didn't do as much cardio, and I started to transition towards weights. So I did have some changes in my body physically, which I would say, as far as like muscular growth, was improved. It was better because I was so active, and naturally I was leaner, skinnier, because of playing soccer and just being active all year round. So I finally started to transition into gaining more muscle mass.
Okay.
That was a transition for me.
Okay. And it seems like that's a positive approach, right? You can go in a different direction, And it sounds like that was a positive distraction. So that's good to hear. What about what did your support system look like in terms of during that transition? Anything you can share with us?
Can you say that again,
No
Brian?
problems. What type of support system did you have in place during your transition?
That's the reality was I didn't.
Okay.
And I would be completely honest with this one. I would love to say that I had a supporting system, but I had just packed my bags from Indiana. I had sold my car. I had gone down to Miami where I really didn't know anybody. And I was not jumping into a climate where I had teams where I'd make friends. It was like, no, I was there by myself trying to make friends, trying to find a community. And so I did feel like the primary point at that time I was, going through that struggle alone. Mm-hmm. And I wouldn't recommend that for anybody. Yeah. I think that made it worse. That's a lot of the reason why I do what I do. That's part of the reason, or a big reason, that the Athlete Mentor exists, is because you need this community of people who are going to support you, help you prepare for life beyond, and help you succeed in sport right now. Yeah. To give you that supporting group, like your peers are right there. And even when you take the game away, you've got people from different schools. You got people from different walks of life that will help you gladly. So that's I think if I didn't go through that, I wouldn't be where I am today. Right. Probably the businesses that I have they wouldn't exist, to be honest. They probably wouldn't. Right.
It's ironic that when you're in the team setting, it's not just you, right? The transition by yourself, I agree. I wouldn't recommend that either. And when you go back to successfully competing as a soccer player, I'm sure you had trainers and coaches and teammates. Like, it's not just you, right? So you did really well with a team, with a support system. And then for some reason, there's a lot of athletes that feel as though, well, I can just figure this whole transition thing out on my own. So what do? You, like, right now you're speaking to that version of Chandler who is just about ready to make that move. What would you tell him?
I would honestly read him back that same quote that you read me. Just basically be yourself. Follow your dreams and the vision you have for your life, and do it without any question. Fall freely towards whatever it is feels right from within, because that feeling, nobody else is living in your body. Nobody else is living your life. I tell myself that too, because like when I wanted to become like a coach and a personal trainer, that wasn't actually really accepted from like family and people I knew, because the expectation is like, maybe you understand, is like go a corporate route. Like, you're going to get a degree. Yeah. That's not really something you need a degree for. It wasn't really a common career. Like, personal training, as far as the generation above me, that wasn't really normal. Like, it became popular in this century. So the career path, they didn't really understand. So it's stuff like that I had to understand. I'm going for it. And if nobody agrees with it, I have to live with that. And then that's okay. I'd rather live with that than, sit back my entire life just wondering why, or, when.
Or what if, right? So one more time for our audience: accept yourself for who you are, not what everyone else wants you to be. And it's so powerful. And it reminds me, I had a friend, Chandler, who says, and it probably comes from a good place. When everyone around you, your family, is saying, hey, don't go down that route, take the corporate route, that probably comes from a place of love, and we want you to be successful and happiness. But you're exactly right. You don't know what my success and happiness really looks like. And so anyway, I had a friend who said in her family, you were either a doctor, a lawyer, or a disappointment. Again, that doesn't come from a place like, we want you to be successful and happy. But it's fascinating. What if you just want to be a park ranger or something different that was really aligned with your values? And so anyway, that really speaks to me as it relates to that quote. So I want to get into some of the amazing work you're doing, some powerful work. Can you help our audience understand what you do now, Chandler?
Sure. So I work completely remote full time. Like I mentioned before, I'm 25, so I work in a full time sales role, and then everything else that everybody sees, I do in my additional hours. I tried to go full time as an entrepreneur at one point in time, a couple different times actually, and it's kind of a teeter-totter effect. So in reality, I got to pay the bills, and then what I do mostly is more. It's less for money. It's more for passion. It's more for giving back. So it's not with the intent of me making a career off it at this point in time. So I work full time. Love my job. I work remotely, so I get to travel a lot. But as far as what you're probably referring to is MindPower. It's the athlete mentor. Those were all started, and I spend most of my additional hours working on those every week.
I would love to hear a little bit more about MindPower.
So MindPower was founded a few years back. Kind of before 2020, I had seen that there was a decline in mental health quality, particularly in youth, and I had seen that from athletes that I had that I had met, that I had started to coach or train, and then friends that I had that also coached in the community in Miami could see the struggles that they were going through. And not to say that they were, different from when I was in high school just a couple of years before, but I could see that there needed to be a better support system. There needed to be more to address and increase awareness around mental health of athletes. And I had just gone through my own journey and understood the struggle for the first time. So that's how MindPower began, with the goal of providing support in the long term for student mental health, basically, which, as everybody knows, is an incredibly hot topic now. But this was before anybody really was talking about it on that level.
And it's fascinating to me how things connect. And as we're talking to me, the connection seems to be the challenges that you went through. It seems like that puts you in a better place to be able to relate and drive that impact that you're passionate about, right? You've got more relatability, experiencing some things, so you can really support some other people along the way. So in some small way, there's almost a gift in the challenges that we often go through.
Yeah, I think there's always a gift in struggle in life. I think that's part of the journey that everyone has to go through at some point in time to be able to find who they really are. And I hadn't been through anything extremely challenging, I would say, to that point. So I would say that was a big part of what I've created since then, is a big part of who I am and kind of my story that I hope to share more of in the future.
Very nice. How about within that umbrella of MindPower, there's the athlete mentor approach that I looked at, and it made me really curious. That it seemed like an amazing approach. Can you share kind of what that approach looks like?
Yeah, absolutely. So I can share where the idea of the athlete mentor came from. To give you the best ideas. When I was transitioning out of college, my first job and my path was coaching as a performance coach, personal trainer. And a lot of the people that I was around, the performance facility that I was at, they're basically contract workers, right? They're performance coaches operating out of a facility, but they had their own name, their own brand, and I was trying to figure out what mine was going to be. And during that process and starting to work with athletes there and plan, the athlete mentor came as a name during my planning for my own LLC, for my own first business, for my coaching business, because I wanted include as part of my coaching, and I was, more than just focusing on the physical side of sport. Focusing more on the stuff that athletes don't think about as much. Meaning, you work on the court or the field on your skills and on your physical performance, but the categories of nutrition, recovery, the mental side of the game, whether it be performance or just better health overall, those were going by the wayside, especially more than a few years back. So that was my approach. I wanted to be more of a well-rounded coach, and I wanted to be a mentor, not just for athletes while they were playing, but also I wanted to be a supporter for them with what they wanted to do in their life. So that's where it came from. Love that.
And then back to sport. I mean, we're in both worlds here, right? Sports and after sports. I'm curious about what some of the transferable skills that you develop while playing sports, or is there something that you've learned from sports that you use in your everyday life? What comes to mind?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, to be very honest, athletes are so prepared for life if they can understand the skills that they've developed in time and how that relates to whatever they want to do. If they want to go a corporate route or they want to be an entrepreneur, those skills are very transferable. I would say just a few of the main ones. Number one is the competitive desire, the competition. That's big. If you put that into your life and you treat that as the game, you're going to win because you're an athlete. That's what athletes do. That doesn't go away. I would say also in particular, being a soccer player, there's passion for sport, particularly across all sports. I'm biased, but if you look at the passion of nations that surround the sport of soccer, passion that the athletes have, if you can tailor that passion towards something else, such as a business, that's something that you've learned to hone in on and kind of retarget, and that's a strength. On top of that, more things like just overall work ethic, time management, considering how busy student athletes are. Those are great skills to take forward that you can easily transfer to life. The other thing is just learning curve, I would say. As an athlete, you constantly have to be learning. Whereas, if you're in school, the tendency is, you're in class, you finish the course, right? And then you don't spend as much time on the subject matter unless it's your field. But I feel like as an athlete, you kind of uniquely have the ability to always learn. And I played a ton of different sports. And so I still to this day, if I have the opportunity to play a new game, like one that I played for the first time a couple of years ago was pickleball or some kind of new sport. I want to learn it and I want to be good at it. And that's just kind of how I treat everything.
They all connect. I haven't played pickleball yet, but that is really popular. But the footwork in soccer translates to footwork in basketball. It's all connected. And what you're saying makes perfect sense. On top of that, in addition to the things that you've mentioned, sports gives us decision making, performing under pressure, dealing with adversity. It's like one after the other. And you're exactly right. This all translates to every single aspect of our lives, including the discipline. I think maybe you mentioned the discipline, which to me is connected to habit. So I want to read one more quote from your website, if I can. And that is, small changes over time, big results. I love how that connects to impact and everything that you represent. I just read a book not too long ago, James Clear, Atomic Habits, and they were talking about this. This is what this reminds me of, small changes. Just the tiniest change in the pilot makes the tiniest adjustment going from LA to New York. And that small adjustment over time means that now they're going to land in DC. So those small changes over time change everything about us. And that's really, that's really to me connected to your desire to impact as many people as you already have and beyond. What else would you like to share with our audience, Chandler? Anything come to mind?
I mean, what you just mentioned, you mentioned Atomic Habits. One of my favorite books, and one of the books I read earlier on. I picked up reading and became a very avid reader from the age 21 to 22, kind of transitioning out of college. In my first summer out of college, I read two to three books a month, which is pretty decent. One of those first books I read was High Performance Habits by Brendon Burchard. So I was very into the personal development space. I became a pretty big fan of like Tony Robbins and people who are in that space. And I just read all their material, listened to all their content, and started to apply it into my own life. And that was a big period of growth for me when I started to do that.
Well done. The difference between that constantly improving versus watching TV for 7 hours a day over time, that's a game changer. The other thing I'll say about you, Chandler, you being a game changer is this. First of all, thank you for your time and your insight, your contribution, your ripple effect. Like what you're doing is creating a ripple effect. All these people that you serve and the lives that you change, you'll never know how many that is, but you can believe that you have already changed a ton of lives. So thank you so much for that. And I do want to mention everything that you do and how you show up. It really aligns nicely with the mission of Athlete Soul. And just as a reminder, so Athlete Soul is about supporting athletes as they transition away from sports. It's about raising awareness about the challenges of retirement and also encouraging athletes to develop beyond sports. Like Chandler, right? Do everything, try everything, experiment, get creative. Don't stay on the sidelines. So at Athlete Soul, we offer a ton of services that support athletes from all levels of sports. They're all free. So for more information and to watch other Transition Talks episodes, just visit us at athletessoul.org. It has been a pleasure. Tons to talk about off the air, but thanks for all you do, and we'll see you next time. Thanks a ton, Chandler.